Hello, beloveds. This is something that I made today. I'm sorry it's a little frosty because of the condensation inside, because the system is settling in. It's a closed ecosystem, it's called a terrarium, and I've put in a lot of different varieties of plants and organic material in it to make it a closed, sustaining system. And yeah, it has an entire cycle, just like the world that we live in. Right? Things grow and things die inside it, and then things grow again and things die inside it. It's like a world within a world, like a world within our world, a world within a jar. Right? It's a closed system, and it sustains itself through the death of one and the rebirth of another. There are those two shells are just snail shells, and yeah, most of the material is things that I found near or around my house. The only exception would be the syngonium inside the shell. It's actually a plant that was in another terrarium. Most of these things were in other terrariums that I just salvaged and built a new one. Because a lot of those terrariums were not really working out. Some of those terrariums were not working out. Most of them are working out fine. I've got quite a few over there. Most of them are working fine, but some of them did not work out fine because of some mold issue. Anyway, so I salvaged whatever I could salvage, and I built this. And the fern is mounted on a moss wall. So I've made a background. There's an entire background in the terrarium. That's a moss wall. So that fern is sticking out from a vertical wall inside the jar, which is something I'm very happy about. This is my first attempt at a moss wall, so I'm happy with that. And then just moss everywhere. Very gritty sort of a substrate with pumice stone and some lava rocks. A very gritty substrate, and that substrate supports the life on the ground. And the vertical substrate is aqua soil. I don't know whether. Okay, so the vertical substrate that you see, this black thing over here, it's just a mixture of broken down, dried up moss and aquarium soil, aqua soil, and mix them together till they form a thick paste like consistency, and then you just take a spoon or something, and then you spread it on the wall of the jar, and that is your living, organic, breathing wall. Now all you have to do is paste moss on top of it. The reason aqua soil is recommended is because it is very clayey, so when it dries, it sticks to the wall. It doesn't fall down. It doesn't dry and break down. So here you have a lot of different varieties of plants and mosses. A lot, actually. I went a little over with this. It doesn't need that many details because the moss wall in itself is a beautiful piece of detail, so it doesn't need that much detail. But I was very happy when I stuck the fern, because that's what you see when mountainous regions, right? You see ferns sticking out from the edge of a cliff. But that idea was that would have been a good idea in itself. If I remove all the shells and everything and just the ferns sticking out in a jar on a living wall, that in itself is a very beautiful minimalist sort of idea. So I might eventually do that and remove a lot of the things that you see over here. So I don't know how I will go about it, but yes, it doesn't really need as much detailing. It doesn't need that much material in it. That syngonium is a standalone piece in itself, to be very honest. Something that's sticking out of a shell. Its roots are sticking out of a shell, so that's a standalone piece in a jar in itself. Maybe I will end up doing that, and maybe just have the fern sticking out of the moss wall in a jar. That would look really nice as well. So yeah, this is a terrarium that I designed today, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Yes, I hope you also like looking at it as much as I do, because that's what it is in the end, right? It's about how beautiful it looks. It looks very beautiful to me. Very messy, very cluttered, a little too full, but very beautiful nonetheless. Right, for a first attempt, I'm very happy with it. First attempt at the moss wall. I do make terrariums quite frequently. Maybe we are. Maybe all of us are just living in a terrarium placed in the back shelf of God. Maybe he placed it on a shelf and maybe he forgot about it, creating new worlds. Or maybe he still remembers it and tends to us as carefully as we tend to creation.